Okay, good morning. So, yesterday we completely discussed about the introduction, the disadvantages of traditional data approach, and why we are going to cloud. What are the advantages if you go to the cloud? So, all these points has been discussed. So, today we will discuss about the AWS global infrastructure, and also we'll discuss about the one of the main important used service, the basic service that is needed is Elastic Compute Cloud, EC2, we call it. Okay, we will discuss these two topics today. First is AWS Global Infrastructure. So AWS Global Infrastructure, like how the AWS has been set up. Okay. First, AWS completely divided the whole map, the global world map, into few regions. They have divided into few regions. So there are multiple regions AWS is categorized depending upon the geographical. Like one region comes under Asia, one region comes under Australia, in North America, South America. There are multiple regions has been categorized. Okay. First point. Each region is nothing but a, depending upon the geographical area, a regions has been classified. Okay. First thing, in each region, there are multiple data centers. Those are called as availability zones. First is AWS categorizes the whole map into different regions like Asia region, Europe region. In Europe, there are some more regions that are categorized. In North America, South America, Europe, all these different regions has been classified. In each regions, there are availability zones. Availability zones is nothing but a physical data center. Assume this is one availability zone. For example, in this region, assume this is region R1. It consists of 3 data centers. These 3 data centers are connected to each other with low latency cables and high availability. Robust mechanism. Means, so AWS has created the availability zones in such a way that if you launch an instance in one availability zone, assume this A1, A2, A3. Okay, so minimum 2 availability zones will be there in each region. Maximum it can go to 6, depending upon the size of the region, size of the data center. According to the requirement, they have categorized. Okay, so a region is nothing but a geographical area. They will select a geographical area. They will establish a data centers. Here, in case 3 availability zones has been configured. Availability zone is nothing but a physical data center. In each data center, multiple servers has been. They have procured multiple servers. They are maintaining multiple servers. The reason for creating multiple availability zones in a region, because if something happens to the availability zone, automatically, as these are connected with the low latency cables, high network performance, automatically all the services will switch to the another availability zone, so that if something happens to this data center, either a quake or any power outages or something happens, right? The customer should not experience any downtime. So all the services that are running in A1 will move to A3. This is the purpose of creating minimum 2 availability zones in each region. Got it? Now you should be able to understand why availability zones. Availability zone is nothing but a physical data center. It minimum 2 availability zones will present in each region. Okay. This is about the regions and availability zones. This whole infrastructure, how the setup is called as, see, between the regions, the network cables also been connected. Either it will be through the satellite connectivity or it will be to the underground cables. So each region also will be connected with the cabling, physical cabling or virtual cabling. Okay. So why regions? Again, you should have a question. Why it is divided into regions? What is the purpose of it? They can maintain one data center, complete world. They can create a huge data center in a one region only. They can AWS can maintain multiple availability zones and they can offer services. But what is the purpose of creating multiple regions? Because assume there are some users in India. Okay, you have an application installed in the US region. If the user in India wants to access this application installed in the US region, and there are some users who are accessing the application from the US region only, who do you think that the application can access faster? The person in the US region can access the application faster, right? Because definitely network latency will come into picture. Latency means the time taken to transfer the data or load the application. Basically the performance, the bandwidth performance we can say. Okay, so that is the reason to avoid this network latency. What AWS did is they have created the regions based upon the geographical area. This is, assume this is Australia region, this is India, this is some South America, this is North America. So multiple regions, this is, assume this is a Europe. Okay, so the regions, the purpose of creating the regions is to offer better services to the users. So if the application, if the application wants to host in the, for example, ICICI Bank created an application only specific to the Indian users. So what do you think, the application should install in the India region or the application should install in the US region? Right? So to give better services, to provide better performance of the application, it is recommended that you have to install the application in the Indian data center. Okay, this is the purpose. If there are Europe users, so definitely installing the application at the Europe data center is a better approach, right? So that is the reason regions has been classified depending upon the user's requirement, where the application has to install. All that needs to be decided by the architect. Architect will decide when see, for every project, right? Architect will be there. It is a responsibility of architect to decide which region the server has to be created, on which region the application needs to be hosted, depending upon the users. Clear? So now you have understand what are regions. Regions are a geographical area that has been classified across the map. And availability zones is that in each region there will be multiple availability zones. Each availability zone is nothing but a physical data center. The purpose of this is to maintain high availability of an application, low latency. That is the purpose of availability zones. Clear? Any doubts why regions has been classified, why availability zones are present? Clear? Sunanda and Rupesh.
Yeah, clear, sir. Yeah, clear.
Yes, sir, clear. Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, for example, now you should have doubt. My application is present in India region. I have deployed an application in India region. That application has to be accessed by US regions also. The same application which I am installing in the India region. Okay. first initially I thought of, yeah, this application has been created for Indian users. I have installed the application in the Indian data center. Assume some region, Mumbai, Bangalore, anyway. Now, after some time, the same application has to be used by the US users. So what happens here? US users will face some slow, not downtime, slow in the network access or high latency, right? For this purpose, what AWS did is they have provided the edge locations. Edge locations. So edge locations it means that they have created few edge locations in multiple areas in the regions. In each regions, few edge locations have been set up. So the purpose of this edge location is there is an edge location in the US region. What edge location purpose is like, these are called as, these edge locations will be used as content delivery network. Content delivery network means this is specifically the edge location purpose is used to deliver the content faster. Okay. So for example, application has been installed here. First time when you access the application, all the data will directly, these edge locations will directly connect to the regions. So that the high performance cables directly, instead of going from different network stages, direct connections will be available to the regions. So that if someone accesses the application from US region, directly the region is connected to the edge location. The data content will appear here, and here in edge location, the data will be cached. You understand the word cached, right? Means it will store in the memory until some certain time. If the same application used by the users, all the application will be accessed from the edge location only. No need to sorry, no need to every time when you access the application, it's not mandatory to access the application from here. It will access the application from the edge location. So edge locations, we call it as a content delivery network. Okay, there are services like AWS CloudFront and AWS Global Accelerator. So there are two services, AWS CloudFront and AWS Global Accelerator is used to achieve the content delivery network. To deliver the content faster, we use either one of these services. Okay. Now you should have understand why edge locations. Okay. The purpose of edge location is used to deliver the content faster, even though application installed in different region. So because of this, what happened? Edge locations. If you install the application anywhere, you can access the application from anywhere with the same performance. That is the advantage. See, in AWS, whatever you can use for your application to perform better, you can use multiple services out there, but every service is cost included. Okay, so depending upon the requirement, architect has to decide whether installing the application in this region is better or installing the application in this region is better, whether I need to use edge locations, whether I need to use any other services. So all these parameters is to be considered when we set up an application. So you should have an idea on the edge locations also. This is one of the parameters in AWS global infrastructure. Depends. It is not mandatory that the edge location in US is connected to all. There are some specific regions it will connect. You have to use that. Okay, see, there will be 2 or more edge locations it will not like n number of regions. If five, as example, 5 regions are present in US. It's not mandatory like 5 edge locations is present. 2 edge locations may present which are nearest to the data center.
Edge location,
Hmm.
US edge locations,
Hmm.
edge location की अन्य regions data centers access होते हैं.
It's not mandatory also. It's not mandatory like every edge location has to. You have to configure. Okay, if you want to use this edge location, you have to configure in such a way that it is connected to this region. It is connected. Okay, so basically there will be edge locations in this region. So you have to, if it is used by this, if Europe users are using this, Australia or Indian data center, then you have to configure which edge location you have to use. There may be multiple edge locations, right? So multiple edge locations will not be used connected to the each region. So there are some edge locations you have to select which edge location you have to use. So when we discuss this AWS CloudFront and all, right, you will get that clarity. Okay, this is edge locations. And there is another terminology, local zones. Local zones. Local zones are nothing but in each the regions has been classified, right? The regions has been classified across the map. Local zone is nothing but the same AWS infrastructure setup will be there only to the highly dense cities. For example, New York is there. Okay, let me go through it. Local zones are the extensions of AWS regions that bring compute, storage, and other AWS services closer to the large metro areas. Okay, so the region has been classified. Regions is already classified, but example, there is a region in US. It is supporting the few cities, but assume that a company is there. The company wants to use assume that the capacity of the company is huge. They have to use the AWS services effectively with the low latency. Okay, for that AWS set up some local zones also. Means apart from regions, there are local zones available to the New York City. Some major cities, few major cities has been configured with local zones. If any customer wants to offer services from the local zones, they want still high low latency. They want generally mostly the AWS how it will decide whether the low latency it should be the application should have low latency, and because of these local zones, many advantages also there. They will set up near the large metros, Hyderabad, Mumbai, Kolkata. Only few locations only they will set up the local zones. It is also the same way as regions, but near to a particular city. It will offer same services what it will do. Okay, so this is called as local zones, right? Another offering is wavelength. Wavelength zones. Wavelength zones is nothing but these are ultra low latency applications. For example, if there is an application, now there are some services provided by applications in the car, right? If you use the map, right? If you use the map for the Tesla cars, they are using the completely automated way of driving. They want to use the high level of applications, like it's ultra low latency applications. So for that 5G networks is needed. So for those, a specific zones has been created that is called as wavelength zones. Okay, for the 5G networks, enable developers to build ultra high loaded applications. The purpose is like highly connected cars, IoT, real-time video streaming. Okay, whether it's doing augmented reality, audio reality, video reality. For that, wavelength zones has been configured. So just you should have an idea what are all the different type of global infrastructure that AWS. So the overall purpose of AWS regions is like to create a robust, stable environment for the end users. Clear? This is the purpose of global infrastructure. Regions, availability zones, edge locations, local zones, wavelength zones. Okay? This is about the global zones. AWS global infrastructure. Clear? Any doubts?
Yeah, clear, sir.
Good. Thank you. Thanks for the response. Okay. Next. Next, we will discuss about the services. AWS is providing like more than 200 services. It is like, I think it is more than 300 also. All services will not present in all regions. Most of the regions, the generalized services that they are using, right? It will present in almost all regions. Few services will be available in few regions only. If you want to avail those services, you have to create that service in a specific region only. Okay, so AWS is classified as multiple regions. Okay, if you see after login, so one thing is you have to create the AWS account. Today you have to create the AWS account, that is mandatory. You should have a Gmail account and a credit card. We won't use the card just for security purpose. They will ask us to save the card. Create an AWS account. If you already have, that's fine. If not, you have to create it. Okay. See, these are all the regions that are present in the AWS. See, in the US East, 2 regions are there. West. Okay. See, these are all the regions that are present by default. For the default free account, right? Only few regions will be enabled. See, there are regions that are not enabled for my account because this is a free account. Okay. So these are all the different type of regions present. So basically, yeah, different type. If you want, you can explore it. Different AWS regions, how many local zones are there, how many wavelength zones are present. Okay, you can explore that in the Google. Okay. How the regions, total how many regions are present, what are the, for example, okay, see total 34 regions, how many availability zones. Okay, see these are all the regions that has been currently present. Okay, there are some regions that are newly launching, coming soon. Okay, in how many countries are present, how many local zones, how many wavelength zones. Okay, there are many services provided by the AWS. Okay. Now we will discuss about the one of the service used important services EC2. EC2. EC2 is nothing but EC2 is the basic service. It is an infrastructure as a service component. Okay, we have 3 different type of cloud models, right? One is infrastructure, platform as a service, infrastructure as a service, software as a service. Okay, so this is an infrastructure as a service component. EC2. EC2 is nothing but elastic compute cloud. Okay. Why it is sold as elastic compute cloud? Compute is nothing but it is performing the operations, different type of compute operations. It is like a server computer or an instance. You can think of it. Cloud means we are creating this in a cloud. The elastic means we can increase the size of the server, the feasibility of increasing or decreasing, increasing the number of. So that is the purpose. Just given the name, just to understand the terminology. EC2 generally we call it. It is an elastic compute cloud. Okay, this is one of the main service that we have to use. So using this service, we can create a virtual machine. Instead of saying creating a virtual machine, so we call it as a renting a virtual machine. Everything in AWS is pay as you go approach, right? We discussed pay as you go means if you want to use it, you have to pay it for the time you have using it. So that's why we call it as a renting a virtual machine. If you want to create an instance, it is like you are it for the rent, buying it for the rent. Okay. Now we will see what are the parameters that are needed to launch an EC2 instance. Okay. So while launching the instance, there are multiple parameters that has been, we'll discuss that. You'll get more clarity. Again, so you know, right, when we are creating a server, we need a CPU, we need a memory, we need a storage, we need a network interface card. So what are all the things that are needed for a server? We will use all these things when we are launching an instance. Okay. For that, if you click on dashboard, right? If you click on services, you will see what are all the services that are AWS is providing. See, these are all the many services that AWS is providing. Everything is been properly documented. For everything, you will get a proper documentation. Okay. Now we are using an EC2. To create an EC2 instance, click on launch instance. Here, just it is like the name of the instance that we are giving. Assume it is my test instance. Just you can give the name. Here you have the application and OS images, Amazon machine image. Okay. For example, if you want to install an application, you have to create a server. To create a server, you should have an idea which operating system you have to use, depending upon the requirement for your application. Either you need a Windows machine or you need a Linux machine. In the Linux, you need a freeware or you need a Red Hat, Ubuntu, SUSE. There are different flavors of Linux, right? Ubuntu server, Red Hat, SUSE. Okay, there are many others. Solaris Linux, that's not supported here. Mac operating system, Amazon Linux is different, one of the Linux flavor. Okay, so different operating systems are present. So you have to, and when you are launching an instance, in real time you will get a request. If you are an AWS admin, you'll get a request from application team like a Jira. You'll get a Jira board. There will be a Jira board to maintain, track the tickets and all. You'll get a request, create an EC2 instance. You'll have the requirements, operating system, which you have to use. Okay. In that, the first request you will get is which type of operating system. Assume I have a, you might get a doubt, what is Amazon machine image? Okay. For now, think Amazon machine image is nothing but a using some specific template, an image is created. That image is called as Amazon machine image. Okay, it's like an OS image. Think of it. There is a separate subtopic here. We will create a separate AMI. We call it as. Okay, we will do that practical also. How to create an AMI. You can launch instance using your own AMIs also. Okay, just for now, Amazon machine image is nothing but think as a OS image. Okay, now I am just using Amazon Linux. Okay, there are more AMICs present. In Amazon only, depending on your requirement, there are different type of Amazon machine images with different requirements. Mac OS, Red Hat. Okay, this is architecture, and depending upon your requirement, like Red Hat Enterprise, which version you need. Okay, which version, along with the version, what is the volume type, the storage type you need. Okay, so you have to select based upon your requirement. Okay, this requirement again you will come from the application team only, whoever requesting for an instance. Okay, there are different type of images. Each image has a specific specifications, like which drivers you have to use, whether it is GPU processed or it is used for any core operating system. Okay, so depending on that, you will select one. You will select one AMI. Okay. Now you will select an AMI. After selecting the operating system, okay, then the next requirement would be how much CPUs or memories is needed for your request. The next point would be which family type you have used. In AWS, it is categorized into different family types. We call it as an instance types also. Okay, each instance type, there are different instances like T series, R series, C series, X series, I series, different series of instance types will present. For example, in T2, if you want with minimum configuration, one CPU, specific memory, you have to go for this. You have to select this T series. Okay, A series. For this A series, if you have a requirement like 8 CPUs and 16 GB, you have to go with this. So which family type you have to need, that comes from the requirement only. Each instance type have specific advantages. Okay, T series, what is the, see, there are different type of instance types are present in EC2. General purpose, compute optimized, memory optimized, accelerated computing, storage optimized. Okay, so each, for general purpose, these are all the family types that has been supported. Okay, T2. For each, what is the purpose of this instance type? In which scenarios you have to use this? Okay, compute optimized. When you have to select this type of instance type, architect will decide. If your application is that need high performance processors, you need to go for compute optimized. Okay, mainly it is used for high performance computing, dedicated gaming server in this machine learning interface. For that, you have to go for the compute optimized. Okay, and this compute optimized will have these features: large instance type. Okay, this everything needs to, you have to go through it for, you will get a better understanding which instance type used for which purpose. Okay, so just you should have a basic idea, like compute optimized used for high performance computing, mainly used for gaming purpose, or where the CPU, it is the application is mostly depends on the more processing, means it is related to the CPU based. That's why it's a compute operating system. And memory optimized, in which scenarios memory optimized is designed for deliver fast performance of workloads that process large data sets of memory. Large data sets, huge data is involved. Assume it's a trading application. Okay, huge data is involved, right? Or any video streaming, Netflix, Amazon Prime, huge data is involved. For those, memory optimized, where databases are mostly used. For that, memory optimized will be used. Okay. See, memory intensive workloads, open source databases in memory capture, real time big data analytics. Okay. So in YouTube, Instagram, huge data is used, right? For those memory optimized, accelerated computing. Okay. So each instance type has a specific purpose. Just you should have an idea. For the CPU, we will use for mostly high performance computing applications, gaming related. Memory optimized instances are used for database, where databases are involved. Okay, memory in memory data and for data analytics. Okay, for accelerated computing. For this one, where graphics are involved. Okay, so storage optimized. Storage optimized is designed for where read and write access for the large data sets on local storage. When we are using storage for most, for that purpose, storage optimized. So there are different HPC optimized, high performance. Complete if you want to go for specific high performance server. So everything, if you go for higher configuration and higher optimization, the cost involved is also more. So you have to be the architect has to be very specific which parameter you have to use for your application. Okay, so there will be multiple scenarios will be considered to derive this. Okay, these are different types of instance type is present. Okay, so currently T2.micro is instance type, that is a free type available. We are using that one. Next, key pair login. Key pair is nothing but to authenticate to the server. You are creating a virtual machine, right? When you are creating the virtual machine, you have to access it, right? To access your server, there should be some mechanism, either login credentials, username and password. That is one way of authentication. Another way authentication is a key pair mechanism. Like if you have idea about the Linux server, okay, there is a key pair SSH based key pair mechanism. Okay, using that also you can create. So for that you need to create a key pair test. Okay. This is for old method of servers. We are using this. Generally, we'll go for RSA authentication. Okay, RSA. If you want a PPK based, if you are using a PuTTY is a tool will be there, right, to log into the Linux server. For that, PPK is needed. If you are using mobile XTerm or PEM based authentication, you are using this .pem file. If you select on create, right, a key pair will be downloaded by default. Using this key, you have to access to the server. Okay, I am using this test key. Most important, network settings. Okay, by default, when you create your AWS account, right, a particular network will be created. Okay. We call it as a virtual private network. VPN, we call it as virtual private. A virtual private network will be created for your account. Means in that you can use some around 4,000 IPs will be there by default. A separate network will be allocated to you. Okay. In real time, right, in your company, you can create your own network. There is a separate networking topic, VPC. We will discuss that. Virtual private cloud, we call it as. So in that, you can create your own networks. When you are creating the own networks, how many IPs should be present in that network? Based on that, you have to create the network. So how you will create the network and all, that is another big discussion. So just I will give you a basic idea. There will be a subnet calculator. Okay, using this subnet calculator, you need to decide how many IPs you need in your environment. Okay, see, whenever there are multiple accounts in your organization, you will create multiple accounts. In each account, a separate, assume that for your project, assume you need some 1,000 instances are needed. Okay, for that 1,000 instances means approximately instead of instances, consider 1,000 IPs are needed. So you are using 500 instances in that. For that, you need some 1,000 IPs has to be allocated in that network. So you have to create a subnet in such a way that it consists of 1,000 IPs has been allocated to that. So using some specific subnet, you have to create a separate VPC. Okay, we will discuss how to select this IP, how to what is the depending upon the usable IPs, how to select this network and all in the VPC concept. Okay, for now, just assume by default a separate VPC will be allocated to you. That is VPC. This is the VPC ID. In that, 4,000 IPs will be allocated to you. You now, if you launch any instance, in the IP will be assigned to this machine from those 4,000 IPs. No, it is a range. If you want, you can use 4,000 IPs. For example, you can, basically it means that when for your application, you need 4 servers. For each server, assume 2 IPs are needed. One is primary interface, secondary is the backup interface. The second 2 IPs need to be allocated in general. One is for primary, second is for backup. So in your account, in your project, assume that it's a very big project. Some around 1,000 instances are needed. So 1,000 into 2,000 IPs. So generally 2,000 IPs will be used. Apart from that, there will be some load balancer IPs, gateway IPs, many IPs will use for different purpose. So for that, some IPs. So depending upon our requirement, you can select the size of the network. How much size of the network is needed for your project. Accordingly, you can create a subnet. Subnet means subnet from the large network. Okay. So by default for your account, free account, you will get 4,000. Okay. So that is all about the VPC. Okay. Next is the security group. This is also we'll discuss very deep in the networking concept. Security group is nothing but a kind of a firewall. Okay, who are all can access your server, who are all can view your application. Means you can control the incoming connections using inbound network. You can control the outgoing connections using the outbound network. Using security group, you can achieve it. Okay, inbound network, outbound network. Inbound means from other instances to the EC2 instance. Outbound network from instance to others. Okay, so basically, who can access your EC2 instance? That categorization comes under inbound network. If you install the application, who are all can access the application? That comes under outbound network. Who are all? You can control every connection either through IP address or through port. You can control that. So this is kind of a security related. You cannot give access for everyone to log into the server, right? Only for the persons, only for the admins who can access the application. For that only you will provide access. If you want your application to be public, then you can give outbound connections to everyone, any IP address, so that it should be available in the internet, right? If you want only to a specific IP address you can control that. Okay, so using security groups, you can control these incoming connections and outgoing connections. By default, allow SSH traffic from anywhere, from where you can select this custom to which IP it needs to be accessed. Okay. So as it is a default, right? I am selecting allow HTTPS traffic from the internet. From the internet, I am allowing HTTPS. I am allowing HTTP also. HTTPS can be accessed on the port 443. HTTP is from the 80, port 80. Okay. We are creating a new security group with these features. If you already have a security group, so in each company, right, already security groups will be created. When an account has been set up, a security group will be created based on the restrictions, based on the some specific set of rules. You always need to select the existing group only in the real time. Every time you will not create a new security group. Okay, which security group you have to select, that is also comes under requirement. Okay, now how much storage is needed? For example, your server, you need some default storage like 8 GB, 10 GB, 15 GB, 100 GB like that. By default, this has been allocated like 1 into 8 GB. You can increase its size, but this is for testing purpose only, right? I'm just going with the default. Okay, this is the basic configuration that are needed to launch an EC2 instance. Okay, there are some huge number of advantages or parameters you can consider when you are launching an EC2 instance. That comes under advanced. Okay, in advanced, you can see auto recovery, shutdown behavior, hibernate behavior. Okay, cloud watch monitoring should be enabled or not. In which placement group this EC2 instance need to be placed. Okay, what is the purchasing option, reservation option? See, in this few parameters we will discuss in the next class. That comes under EC2 advanced. Okay, so I am just going with the default. Okay, along with the default, only one option I am using now is user data. User data in the sense, when an EC2 instance is getting launched, after immediately launching the EC2 instance, if you want to perform any activity, suppose you want to start a web service. After launching an EC2 server, like after launching a Linux server, if you want to execute any few set of commands, those can be written here. This is called as user data. The purpose of this is, suppose after launching an instance, you want a particular service need to be started immediately, or a particular service need to be restarted. Example, Apache is the service that is related to the HTTPD service. HTTPD is a web service that is used to install in a Linux server. It is a web service. If you want to install that service when you are launching, you have to include the steps to start to install that HTTP service, to start the HTTP service. Okay, you can include it. There are some other the advantages of this is like, suppose after launching an instance, every time some logs need to be cleared. In real-time applications, there will be all the application logs will be stored in a particular temporary file. If you want to zero that file after launch, every time when you restart that machine, right, you can put an entry here like RM, that log file name. So it will get removed every time if it is not in use. Okay, and also you can, every time when you launch an instance, backup has to run every time. Right? Sorry, why we have to
launch multiple instances. Instance, common instance creation.
We are launching an instance to install our application, right? See, there are some scenarios we will restart the server. See, it is not mandatory. Sometimes what happen is, it is pay as you go approach. If your application is using only 8 hours per day, you can configure in such a way that it will run for 8 hours. After that, you can shut down it so that the amount will be saved for you. There are some applications it has to run 24/7. There are some applications depend. So in that scenarios, what happens is sometimes you need to restart every time, every day it will restart. After every day, you have to assume that you have to perform some action. After every restart, you have to perform some action. What action you have to perform after launching the server? That statements you can put it here so that it will execute immediately after launching. This is one of the scenario that this is advantage. So for example, here in this scenario, I am using launching an EC2 instance. To launch an EC2 instance, I have to execute these commands. Yum update -y. Yum is the utility in the Linux to install the repository, what are all the packages that are needed to update the operating system. HTTPD is a service to install the Apache. It is a web server. HTTP is an Apache web server. I am installing this. So after launching an instance, I am telling the server, please execute these commands so that a web server is get launched. This is a command. Systemctl is the utility to start any service in the Linux to enable that service. After start installing that HTTPD and after starting the service, just I am in that web application, I am giving the entry welcome to Edupoly. For that, I have to update this index.html file to launch this. Just I am adding this content here, just to show the advantages of this user data. Okay, so what are the things that you have selected? Everything will come here. Now I am launching the instance. In traditional method, to create a server, it is taking time, right? We need to order a machine. The engineer has to come, they have to set it up. It will take time. In cloud, it will take few minutes only to launch. See, the instance is already launched. See, this is the test instance we have created. Instance is ready. Okay, just it will take another minute to perform the checks actually. See, it is initializing, right? The status check will get completed, then you can access this. Okay, now what are the parameters you have created? See, when I am launching the instance, right? I haven't specifically selected any region. Specifically, I didn't select any region. If you want, when you are launching, you can select a specific region like this. If you are launching, right, launching instance, you can change this region to US East. Over here. If you launch an instance here, the instance will be launched in this region. You can change this region also. Okay. If you want to create an instance in a specific region, you can change that one also. So depending upon your requirement, you can select the region. Okay, one instance is the one it is running. Okay, don't ignore this. I have used it for some testing purpose. Okay, this is the instance that has been launched. You can see still it is initializing. It is created in this and public DNS has been allocated. So default AWS will assign one public IP within the range that the network is present, and also it will allocate one DNS name. And you can see the monitoring is disabled. The security group that you have created, right? By default, this is the name, which key you have used, at which time it has launched. So all these parameters you can see. So when you click on this instance, right, you can see more details. What is the public IPv4 address? What is the private address? What is the DNS name? Okay, in which VPC it has been created. Okay, with respect to the details, which AMI is used. Okay, you need to explore all these options. What is the AMI ID? What is the alarms, monitoring, security, networking? In security, you can see which security groups has been used. This is a security group that is created. I have selected 3 options when I'm creating. One is allow SSH from anywhere, means 22. From anywhere, that's the reason it is taking 0. And I'm also selected allow HTTPS traffic and also HTTP. 443 is a HTTPS. I'm allowing every network. Okay. This is the security group. See, this is the security group name that has been created. In this security group also, you have discussed, right? Edit inbound rules and outbound rules. These are the inbound rules. These are the outbound rules. If you want to restrict, right, you can add the new rules like custom TCP. If you want, you can update the specific. You can update from which IP it has been. Okay, all this will be tested. Don't worry, we will test all these rules also. Okay, as it is initial, we will go with the default. Okay, these are all the security groups. This is the outbound rules. And coming to the networking, what is the network ID? A VPC network will be created. Is that right? Using this VPC network, a default network will be allocated. This is the network that is allocated. See, this is the CADR range that has been allocated for your account. 172.31.00, right? Let's see how many IPs has been allocated. 172. And 72.31.00/16. 31.00/16. You can say 65,000 IPs. I thought only 4,000. So 65,000 IPs been by default you will get it. Okay, there are so many IPs in the network, right? This is a network that has been allocated for your account. So for all your 3 accounts that you already available, right? You can check it. Go to VPC and see how many IP addresses are present. Okay, this is the default VPC, default connections. Okay, you will get to know routing tables, ACLs. Okay, everything when you verify. So you will get all the VPC related, network related details here. Okay, in this map, this is the VPC. In that, how many subnets has been created in each? What is the routing tables? How the traffic will move? Okay, you can create everything manually. Okay, when you are creating a account, these are the default that you will get. But you can always create the new. You can create your own VPC. Edit VPC settings, you can manage it. Okay, you can create your own VPC with the settings you need always. This we will discuss in depth when you get the VPC topic. Okay, this is all about the network and this is all about the security. This is with respect to the storage. One type of storage, EBS type of storage. There are different type of storage, EBS, EFS, Elastic File System. Okay, different type of storage will be available that will be used. Here we are using EBS. Okay. See, when you are launching an instance, you have installed a web server, right? And you have updated a message. What is the message you have updated in that? Welcome to Edupoly. So because you have executed these commands in the user data, you no need to execute this manually. Again, if you haven't performed this, you have to log into the server, perform these actions, then a web server will be launched. So this is the advantages of user data. Okay, you can deploy an application also. Every time when you launch an application, you can set up an application, you can truncate the logs, you can take the backup, you can delete the backup. So any actions that you can use, that is the purpose of this. Okay. So I request you to create an EC2 instance. So how to connect to the EC2 instance? There are different ways. You can use mobile external. You can use directly. There is an option here, connect. EC2 instance connect session. Using these different options, you can connect it. Using EC2 instance command, you will get an option here to connect. So directly a server will be launched. The one which you have created, right? That will be launched. You can access that using browser only. Okay. Just you can see uptime of this server. You can play around with this server. You can try using some Linux commands. Search in the Google some Linux commands, and you can try executing it. Okay. We will discuss more about this. What can be done in this in the DevOps? There will be a separate session for Linux. So, what are the basic commands or activities that we will do in the Linux as part of a DevOps engineer? So that we will discuss in the DevOps classes. Okay, this is all about the how to connect. There are we can connect using the key base also, right? For example, here public IP has been there. Now, if you want to authenticate, you have downloaded a key, right? When you are creating an instance, using that also you can. The default username will be EC2 user, and one key has been created, right? I am using that key to log into the EC2 instance that I have created. So either you can access from the web EC2 direct to AWS Web Console, or you can access from the mobile system or could be anything you have. So this is, you can install this mobile system with the basic steps only. Just search for mobile system. In this way also you can access it. Here, this is all about the how to launch an EC2 instance with the basic parameters. There are more advanced options are available that we will cover in the next class. There are many AMIs. See, we will discuss all these options. What are the saving plans, reserved plans? What is AMI, snapshots, elastic IPs, placement groups, load balancers. So we will cover all these topics in the EC2. It will take like another 3 classes to complete all these parameters with practical. Okay, now you have a good amount of work to start practicing from today. Okay, let me stop the recording.